Merab just absolutely dominated Sean O'Malley from start to finish. To get the cherry on top, he ends up getting a submission win over Sean O'Malley, making him tap out, and he's now still the bantamweight champion of the world, and probably going to be the greatest bantamweight of all time. This is my thoughts on UFC 316. Merab's the greatest bantamweight of all time. O'Malley still looks sharp in the fight, but obviously needs to build himself back up. We'll go for each individual fight, and we'll end off with Merab and Sean O'Malley. Starting off with Marquel Mederos versus Mark Choinski. Marquel Mederos pulls off the expected decision win. Yeah, this was expected. Marquel Mederos pretty much dominated this fight on the feet. Absolutely slashed the legs of Mark Choinski in this fight. A bunch of leg kicks, slashed the legs of Mark Choinski, and then eventually managed just to get the decision win after piecing him up. But Mark Choinski was tough. You know, he still hung in the fight. There were a couple of times when he took the back of Marquel Mederos and put him in danger, but Marquel Mederos, as expected, gets the decision win. Yeah, Mederos is a very slick striker offensively, and he's shown this in all of his fights. In the Contender Series, in his fight with Austin Hubbard in his UFC debut, and obviously now against Mark Choinski. Super slick offensively, and he just absolutely beat Mark Choinski to a pulp with the leg kicks. He is a little bit, you know, cautiously defensively. Is Mederos, like, for example, the takedown defense, it isn't just this fight, but it's in his last fight as well. He's shown that he's definitely got flaws in his takedown defense, and he nearly got submitted by Mark Choinski as well in the first round. So I would like to see improvement, and even in the striking defense as well. Like I said, he's super slick offensively, but he gets caught on the feet a lot. There were times in this fight where Mark Choinski was managing to put the punches together and land on Marquel Mederos, but Choinski's tough, probably going to stay in the UFC because he stepped in on short notice. But Marquel Mederos, I'd like to see him get a step up in competition now. He fought Austin Hubbard, a failed the Ultimate Fighter prospect. He fought Mark Choinski, this short notice guy from the regional scene. I think now for Marquel Mederos, what is he, 2-0, 3-0 in the UFC? I'd like to see a step up in competition against somebody like maybe, I don't know, what about, what's that Mexican dude called? I forgot his name. The Mexican dude in the lightweight division. But yeah, Marquel Mederos, great win, great striker. Surprised he couldn't get the finish in there, to be fair, but looked amazing and just completely outstruck Mark Choinski. Then we had Quillan Salkilld versus Yanal Ashmouz. Yeah, Quillan Salkilld looks like a legitimate prospect for the 155-pound division. He looked great in this fight, at least for 2 rounds. Australia's wrestlers are coming through now with JDM, Alexander Volkanovski, now Quillan Salkilld. Put a wrestling masterclass on Yanal Ashmouz, and even on the feet, he was doing well, but this was just a wrestling performance from Quillan Salkilld, taking down Yanal Ashmouz, dominating with the wrestling, got the control time, mixed it with the ground and pound as well. This was a dominant performance from Quillan Salkilld. In the third round, he was put in a little bit of danger because we started to see Yanal Ashmouz kind of put the pressure on, and he started landing some overhand rights, which kind of gave me PTSD for that Sam Patterson fight where he absolutely slept Sam Patterson brutally. But yeah, Salkild's a legit prospect for 155. We saw in his last fight, and we saw in the Contender Series, the striking ability that he's got. He's a really slick boxer, but he didn't want to risk it with Yanal Ashmouz. Goes to the wrestling and just dominates Yanal Ashmouz with the wrestling. So this guy's a slick striker, and now he can wrestle. He's going to go for at 155. Rapid improvements. Dangerous everywhere the fight goes. And I feel like for Yanal Ashmouz, he's still a super dangerous guy. I mean, in that third round, he was basically chasing down Quillan Salkilld because he knew he had to get the KO win. And we've seen him deliver brutal KOs before. But the guy's tiny for the 155-pound division. I won't be surprised if he's up there with one of the shortest reaches for 155. I'm not saying he can necessarily make 145, but I think for him, that would definitely be the more favourable division because he does seem tiny in there all the time at 155. And it's obviously struggling with his reach. I think if he was able to cut down to 145, it had a lot more success. But it was a great fight. Great display of grappling dominance from Quillan Salkilld. Nice third round from Yanal Ashmouz. Landed a couple of times on Quillan Salkilld as well. So good performance from Quillan Salkilld. Going to go for at 155 again. Somebody I'd like to see get a bit of a step up in competition. Maybe get him on the next Australian card. If they're going to do JDM versus Islam later this year, you've got to get Quillan on that card because he's a legit prospect. One of the better Australian fighters we've got coming up right now, and I think he can go for at 155. Slick boxer, good wrestler. Good performance from Quillan Salkilld. Then we had Ju Sang Yu, 100% going to get a bonus. This is the best moment on the entire card, in my opinion. It gets the KO win of a Jeka Saragih. Now, I said in the breakdown that I expect Ju Sang Yu to kind of play with his food and then get a finish, but I could have never told you it was going to end this way. He got what, in my opinion, is going to be one of the best KOs this year. He leans backwards and then gets the pull counter right hand, absolutely slumps Jeka Saragih face first to the canvas. I was going crazy when this happened. This has to get a 50k. This could even get a 100k bonus, and in my opinion, this was the best KO of the year so far. Left hand, faced first to the canvas, sent him out. What a way to get a UFC debut. That has to be one of the best UFC debuts we've had in modern UFC history. KO of the year contender already, and he gets a 50k for that. This guy we already knew coming into the UFC was a bit of a prospect on the regional scene. It wasn't just the knockout, it was everything. The walkout, the Korean zombie walkout, everybody singing his song, and the comparisons to Conor McGregor, and he goes out there looking slick, hands down, full of confidence, and then he gets that KO to put the cherry on top, slumps him face first to the canvas, out cold. He's a star in the making, man. He's going to go far in the, the featherweight division. He's going to go far at 145. Said he wants to redeem Korean Zombie and win that belt back. And you know what? He's got he's got potential to do that. Super slick striker. I think he's undefeated too. Decent wrestling. This guy's going to go far in the 145 pound division. Massive win for you. Guaranteed bonus. Massive way to debut on the card as well. The UFC's got a card coming up in China, so since he's an Asian fighter from Korea, I reckon you stick him on that card, get him another highlight reel win, but you can't get better than that. How can you get a better debut than that? Getting a KO in what, 20 seconds, KO of the year contender, face first to the canvas. Jeka is going to be out for a while, but massive debut win for Ju Sang-yu. Give him the 50k, give him the big fights. This guy's a star in the making, and I knew, like I said, coming into the fight, that we saw on the regional scene, he was a slick striker. There was a little bit something different about Ju Sang-yu compared to the rest of these regional fighters, and he performed that and got the best finish of the night, in my opinion. One of the best finishes we've had this year. Probably the best KO. Like, name one KO that we've had this year that has been better than that. I can't think of one off the top of my head. Great KO win for Ju Sang-yu. Gonna go far in 145. Star in the making. Then we had Ariane de Silva versus Wang Cong. Wang Cong gets the decision win. Yeah, she just picked apart Ariane de Silva again, kind of like the Mark Choinski fight, just completely slashing her legs, nearly finished her in, I think it was the second round with leg kicks. I thought she was going to get the finish, but it went to a decision. But I will say, de Silva impressed me in this fight. I thought she was going to be toast on the feet. I thought if there was only a key to victory for her, it was going to be by implementing the grappling, but she actually put up a decent fight on the feet with the boxing and made Wang Cong kind of look a little bit more beatable than what we thought recently. But it was a decent scrap for women MMA standards. Bit back and forth. Wang Cong absolutely picking apart Ariane de Silva with the kickboxing, slashing her legs, going to the body, and then Ariane de Silva kind of just making it a dogfight, which is what she needed to do rather than playing the technical game, landing the boxing combinations, and looking good in that fight with Wang Cong. But yeah, Cong destroyed the leg of de Silva, nearly got the finish. I think if she went for the ground and pound after she dropped her with the leg kicks, or even just attacked the legs while she was on the ground, I think she would have had a much better chance of finishing the fight. But yeah, de Silva impressed me a lot. I thought she was going to be tossed on the feet. She put up a decent performance, but with that being said, I mean, the elephant in the room, missing weight by 6 pounds. Obviously, she had to forfeit her paycheck by 25%, but she's got to now move to the bantamweight division. You can't stay at that division. Is it bantamweight or is it flyweight? I don't know. She's got to move a division above anyway. I think it is the bantamweight division, because you can't be weighing in 6 pounds ahead. I mean, 1 or 2, 3 pounds more overweight is one thing, but 6 fucking pounds is next level. But the commentary in this fight kind of irked me as well. I mean, first of all, the pronunciation of Wang Tong's name, Wang. I mean, I call her Wang Kong because it's easy, but the commentary will call her Wang Tong. I think they called her Swanton Bomb at some point as well. Yeah, the commentary were kind of irritating, and they kept the constant comparisons to Valentina Shevchenko. Oh, Wang Kong has a win over Valentina Shevchenko 15 years ago. Nobody cares. Is what it is. Wang Kong gets the win. Good prospect in the flyweight division is Wang Kong. Obviously, her hype kind of died down after she took that loss to Gabriela Fernandez last year, but she's bounced back with 2 wins. She's looked pretty dominant in both wins. I think if she can sharpen up the kickboxing a little bit more and maybe improve the boxing and the defense, she can go far in this division because she's a fun striker. You want to get behind her. Ariane de Silva needs to move up a weight class, but it was a decent scrap for women MMA standards. Can't really complain. Then we had Khaos Williams versus Andreas Gustafsson. I kind of knew this was going to be a weird fight. It didn't go as I expected. I thought it was going to be a scrap, like an absolute back and forth scrap, and it wasn't that. Instead, it was a mauling from Andreas Gustafsson. He completely mauled Khaos Williams in this fight. This wasn't even close in the slightest. I think he got a couple of 10-8 rounds in there as well. I think 2 of the judges gave him like 2 10-8 rounds. This was a dominant performance from Andreas Gustafsson. Completely wore out Khaos Williams. Didn't take a back step the entire fight. Just approached him with a grappling heavy game plan. Held him against the cage. Took him down. And when he did take him down, he was slashing him upwards with elbows. Constantly keeping him on the back foot. This was a massive debut win for Andreas Gustafsson. And he's been waiting to debut for a while. I remember the first time he was supposed to debut, I'm pretty pretty sure he broke his neck. The second time he was supposed to debut, which was last week, his opponent ended up pulling out. He gets rescheduled against a dangerous fighter in Khaos Williams and completely mauled him. This is one of the most dominating maulings I've seen in a while. Completely just bullied him for 15 minutes, didn't give him any space to breathe, constantly smothering him, and when he did, he would just elbow him, slash him, cut him open, take him down, and dominate him. The crowd weren't liking it, but I mean, it's a USA crowd. If it's not a stand and bang fight like Chandler versus Poirier, the USA crowd kind of just seem to boo everything nowadays. But Andreas Gustafsson completely mauled him. His pace is crazy. This guy might be the middleweight, the welterweight version of Merab. He's kind of like a welterweight version of Fluffy Hernandez. He's like Anthony Hernandez, just wearing people out with the grappling, constantly moving forward, constantly looking to break his opponents. He's kind of like a welterweight version of Anthony Hernandez, but it was a great debut. Dominated Khaos Williams, which is a respectable name. I mean, to debut against Khaos Williams isn't an easy thing to do, and to do it in that fashion as well kind of shows me that Andreas Gustafsson's going to go far. He's a unique fighter as well, obviously has a unique style, fun to watch, fun kind of personality as well on social media. So Andreas Gustafsson, I'd like to see him maybe fight one or two more guys and then get a shot at the top 15 of the welterweight division. And for Khaos Williams, dangerous guy, but he has kind of fallen off. I mean, he's grappling is the biggest flaw in his game. He got submitted by Gabriel Bonfim in his last fight. Now he's just been dominated by Gustafsson. He's going to have to work on that grappling a bit, but decent fight. Dominating performance from Andreas Gustafsson. Might get a 50k for that, I'm not sure. But then after this, we had quite a controversial fight. Sergei Spivac versus Waldo Cortes Acosta. A lot of people thought this was a robbery, and I have to disagree. I thought Waldo Cortes Acosta won this fight 2-1. Sergei Spivac, he kind of attacked early on, just like he normally does with the boxing and then going to the clinch, but it was kind of just Waldo Cortes Acosta picking apart Sergei Spivac the entire fight. And that's not to say that Spivac had nothing left, but it was just a dominant display from Waldo Cortes Acosta, picking him apart with the boxing, taunting him a few times, which is to be expected, but overall, it was a pretty comfortable decision win, in my opinion, for Waldo Cortes Acosta. I'm not sure why there was so much controversy online and why the crowd were booing so much. I thought that was an easy 2-1 for Waldo Cortes Acosta, but classic Sergei Spivac performance. This is why I cannot pick Sergei Spivac to win fights anymore. He does the same thing every single fight. He looks great for the first 3 minutes. He looks title worthy for the first 3 minutes of every fight, and then when he can't get them out in the first 3 minutes, and then when he gets his first kind of face of adversity, he gets nerfed and he just looks awful for the entire fight. That is literally every Spivac fight. Looks great for 3 minutes, and then he's, you know, he just becomes a bang average heavyweight. And Waldo Cortes Acosta took advantage of it, and he is the best fat heavyweight. I said it a couple of days ago, and it's kind of aged well. Waldo Cortes Acosta, his place in the heavyweight division is going to be the top 7. He's not going to be he's not good enough to break the top 5, but he's good enough to kind of beat the likes of Spivac and Tibura and a couple of the other guys in the rankings of the heavyweight division. He is their fat heavyweight final boss. That is what Waldo Cortes Acosta is. Slick and pretty quick boxer for his size in the heavyweight division. But yeah, just picked apart Sergei Spivac for 15 minutes. Spivac had success. You know, I'd say he probably landed the most significant shots against Waldo Cortes Acosta, and obviously managed to take him down in the first round. But apart from that, he was kind of just like a walking punching bag. Waldo Cortes Acosta just picking him apart. But yeah, good win for Cortes Acosta. I think him and Pavlovich next could be a good shot. I know that's probably not the guy you want to be going against next if you're Waldo Cortes Acosta, but I think him and Pavlovich, let Pavlovich get another highlight reel win. But actually, at this point, I don't think Pavlovich finishes Cortes Acosta. If you can't finish Rosenstrike, I don't think you're finishing a slick boxer in Cortes Acosta. And for Sergei Spivac, I mean, he's a very boring fighter, doesn't improve in any of his fights. Very, what's the word, like, inconsistent as well. Give him fucking Thomas Peterson. Thomas Peterson versus Sergei Spivac. There's your fight night main event in the Apex. But good performance from Cortes Acosta. I didn't think it was a robbery. Then we had Azamat Murzakanov versus Brendson Ribeiro. I kind of feel dumb for picking this fight to end the decision. Murzakanov does Murzakanov things and knocks out Brendson Ribeiro in the first round. Lands a massive clubbing left hand in that first round, wobbling Brendson Ribeiro, and beats him to a pulp so badly with the ground and pound that he made him verbally tap out, just verbally resign while he was getting beaten with ground and pound. And another dominant win for Azamat Murzakanov. What is that, like 6 wins in the UFC now with 5 finishes, with his only decision win being over Dustin Jacoby. Murzakanov a legit prospect in the 205-pound division. I think he's got a higher ceiling than Carlos Ulberg. The only problem is he's inactive, and he also happens to be like 37 years old. The clock's ticking. You can't be inactive if you're Murzakanov. You're undefeated. You're on a roll in the UFC. Stay active. He called for a main event. Honestly, I think him versus like a Volkan Uzdemir in a Fight Night main event in the Apex isn't a bad shout to build the name of Murzakanov because he's insanely dangerous. His hands are so quick for his size as well. The fact that you look at him and you think, oh, it's just another ploddy fat unranked light heavyweight, but he's super quick and powerful and accurate for the light heavyweight division. He has some of the best boxing and some of the most dangerous hands in this division. He just showed it against Brendson Ribeiro. Joe Rogan as well kind of proved that he's a bit of a casual in this fight, like saying that Azamat Murzakanov is the hidden prospect that nobody cares about. Joe Rogan, you are the guy. You didn't know who Azamat Murzakanov was before UFC 316. Stop acting like you did. You kept asking why he's been inactive for so long. I'll tell you why he's been inactive. It's because he's been popping steroids. That's why. But you didn't know that, Joe Rogan. You've just been looking at his record, seeing that he's inactive and acting like you know that he's the next big thing. It kind of irritates me when Joe Rogan acts like he's, you know, the hardcore fan. Like which fight was it where he was calling people casuals? Anyway, good win for Azamat Murzakanov. Sleeps Brendson Ribeiro in the first round, dominates him with, well, just a massive clubbing left hand, go to the ground and pound finish. You've got to give him somebody in the top 10 next for Azamat Murzakanov. You can't really afford to take the slow approach. Give him someone in the top 10. If he passes, give him someone in the top 5. You know what a dream fight is for me in the light heavyweight division? Azamat Murzakanov versus Zhang Mingyang. Two guys that seem unstoppable. Two guys that just have KO ability in every fight they're against. Murzakanov versus Mingyang Zhang will be a dream fight, but give him a fight night main event. Still kind of clueless to why I picked this fight by decision, but it is what it is. Great win for Murzakanov, and he's going to rise in the rankings at light heavyweight. Then we had the prelim headliner, Joshua getting the van, gets his career best win so far as he gets another finish in his career as he finishes Bruno Silva in the third round. This is vintage Joshua Van. This is his best performance yet. Absolutely dominated Bruno Silva the entire fight. I thought this was going to be very competitive, but it wasn't. Joshua Van, I think, dropped him 3 times in the second round, and his counters were amazing in this fight. He just was picking apart Bruno Silva, even worse than what Manel Cap did, which kind of shows you the level of Joshua Van. And then eventually in that third round, just clipped Bruno Silva too much, went for the ground and pound finish and managed to get Bruno Silva out of there. Joshua Van is the best prospect in the flyweight division right now, and that goes far to say he's the best boxer in this division right now. I know you've got the likes of Steve Erceg and Brandon Moreno and Kai Kara France. I think from a technical perspective, when you're taking everything to account, Joshua Van's the best boxer in this division. He needs to fight someone in the top 10 next, but this was a massive performance. Like I said before, I expected Joshua Van to win, but I thought it was going to be a close, you know, competitive striking matchup where they both have their moments, but Joshua Van gets the better of him. He just straight beat the fuck out of Bruno Silva this fight. Wasn't even close, wasn't even competitive, just beat the absolute crap out of him. Great win for Joshua Van. Give him someone in there. I'd argue even like a top 5 matchup. For me, the fact that he's been so active, he's got so many good wins in the UFC, and he just did that against Bruno Silva. Honestly, someone in the top 5 wouldn't be a bad shot, like a Tatsuro Taira or an Amir Albazi, somebody like it in that area of the flyweight division. Great win for Joshua Van. Beast. Flyweight's best prospect right now, and he's got everything going for him. He's active. You know, he's a fan favorite. He's got slick boxing. Good performance from Joshua Van. Get him a fight booked in the top 10 of the flyweight division. Then we had the main card. Kevin Holland, or you're a wrestler now, turns into a grappler as he submits Vicente Luque in the second round. He has to stay at 170. Yeah, Holland looked great in this fight. It was completely picking apart Vicente Luque the entire fight. He got caught a few times from Vicente Luque, but the majority of the fight was just him picking apart Vicente Luque, and eventually Vicente Luque slips. Holland capitalizes on it by going for his signature. I think it was a Darce choke. Gets his signature Darce choke, winning, submits Vicente Luque. I don't know who bet on Kevin Holland to win this fight by submission, but whoever did, they're cashing out big time. They're celebrating right now. I don't think anybody saw Kevin Holland by submission coming, but he gets the submission win over Vicente Luque. Holland's back, 2-fight win streak, submits Vicente Luque. To think that just early this year, I was maybe thinking that Kevin Holland isn't too far from getting cut from the UFC, and now he's 2-0 in 2025. He's 1-2 in 2025. He's been that active. 2-1 in this year. But since he's come down to welterweight, 2-0, submits Vicente Luque. Going to be in the top 15, calls out Colby Covington. I'd honestly favour Kevin Holland to beat Covington at this time. Give him a fight night main event against Colby Covington. That's a massive fight. But yeah, great performance. Just pieced him up the entire fight. Gets the submission win to put the cherry on top. And again, this is vintage Kevin Holland. I don't want to see this guy at 185 again. He said it in the post-fight Octagon interview. He does his best work at 170. Beating Vicente Luque in that fashion. It is kind of sad to see the downfall of Vicente Luque. I reckon within a year or two, he's going to be retired from the sport. To think that this guy was one big win away from potentially fighting for a belt, and now he's outside the top 15, and you know, he's up there with the likes of Marquel, Chiesa and all them guys. Is what it is. But good performance from Kevin Holland. Gets back in the winning column. And then we have Mario Batista versus Patchy Mix. I think we've got to start showing Batista a little bit more respect. And Patchy Mix, listen, Bellator, how bad is Bellator at this moment in time? This was a terrible performance from Patchy Mix. His head didn't move the entire fight, and he just kind of took a beating from Mario Batista. It was like Mario Batista was there trying to get the win, and Patchy Mix was treating it like a light sparring session. He just got pieced up by Mario Batista himself. Mario Batista picks up the win unanimously across 3 rounds because of Patchy Mix awful fight IQ. And I'm not trying to discredit Mario Batista, but it wasn't necessarily what Mario Batista did well. It was more so of what Patchy Mix didn't do. I'm never picking a Bellator fighter to win again. From Patricio Pitbull early this year and now Patchy Mix. I don't give a fuck about Bellator signings anymore, or PFO for that signings. But yeah, Patchy Mix fraud check. I was giving him the benefit of the doubt coming into this fight. You know, he's in his prime, 20-1, great submission artist, and he comes into this fight, and the submission expert, the guy that's known for his insane grappling, his insane scrambles, decides to shoot 1 takedown the whole fight, despite getting pieced up across 15 minutes. Great performance from Mario Batista. Stayed active, did what he needed to do. Gets to win over Patchy Mix. I say give him someone in the top 5 next, maybe like I don't know, just someone in the top 5. But Patchy Mix, what the fuck was that? You can't even just blame it for being octagon jitties. You've had 21 professional fights in, you know, Bellator. Just because you've come over to the UFC against Mario Batista, you want to blame octagon jitters. That was a shit performance. You know, we didn't even try and he shot 1 takedown the entire fight. Mate, you are a grappler. You're a submission expert. When you get pieced up on the feet for 14 minutes straight, not at 14, but 10 minutes straight coming into round 3, maybe it should come to your head that you maybe might have to shoot a takedown or land a couple of combinations to set the takedown up. You just stood there in the middle of the octagon, taking a beating, not moving your head. Damn. I'm never picking a Bellator fighter to win again. Good win for Mario Batista, though. He's beat Jose Aldo. He's beat Patchy Mix. He's kind of like the dark horse of the bantamweight division now. Give him someone in the top 5. I don't care who. Maybe Figueiredo's a good fight. Davis and Figueiredo versus Mario Batista. That's probably a sick fight to make next. But Mario Batista gets the win over Patchy Mix. Is what it is. Patchy Mix. Yeah, bit of a fraud these days, isn't he? Then we had Kelvin Gastelum versus Joe Pyfer. Another bit of an underwhelming fight. Joe Pyfer gets a decision win. It was kind of just a staring contest. It was like we were waiting. I think this fight was very tense. It was kind of like the entire fight. We were waiting for something to happen, and it never happened. I thought Joe Pyfer was going to land that shot, and I was trusting him to land that shot, and he never did. Yeah, it was literally just... Joe Pyfer, he's the definition of a power merchant. Relies too heavily on his power. He got a couple of good KOs in his UFC career. Thinks he hits as hard as Francis Ngannou, and now literally all he does in every fight is look for the one big shot every fight. He'll load up, he'll throw a massive club in overhand right, he'll miss, or he'll wobble his opponent, but it didn't work on Kelvin Gastelum because he's got that iron Mexican chin. I think Gastelum might actually have the best chin in the UFC now, but either way, yeah, Pyfer refuses to throw any kicks. He landed like 1 or 2 good body kicks in the first round and decided to not throw a kick for the rest of the fight. Refuses to land any combinations, just it's staring at him for a minute. Throw a massive overhand right, hoping that it lands, and then maybe an uppercut, and then do the same thing for the entire fight. Boring ass fight from both of the guys. At least Gastelum kind of tried pushing a pace in the 3rd round, but it was already too late at that point. It was already 0-2 coming into the 3rd round, but yeah, Joe Pyfer's going to get the nickel treatment soon. I know he already got beat by Jack Camanton, but you put Joe Pyfer against one of these deadly middleweights, he's getting fucking smoked. He did not impress me in this fight. He impressed me in the first 30 seconds when he, you know, wobbled Kelvin Gastelum, but you've got to throw a combo. How can you be this far into your UFC career and not know what a combination is, not know what a body kick is, not know what just... It's just basic MMA, power merchant written all over it. Don't get me wrong, super dangerous guy, and I'm not denying that he's definitely one of the more dangerous middleweights on the roster, but that was a poor performance from Joe Pyfer. He admitted it in the post-fight Octagon interview, is what it is. I want to see him fight another unracked dude before he fights in the top 15 because he didn't massively impress me in this fight. And then we had Juliana Pena versus Kayla Harrison. Kayla Harrison does Kayla Harrison things and manhandles Juliana Pena, getting the submission in the 2nd round. This was a dominant display from Kayla Harrison. She was a pro. Did Juliana Pena do anything in this fight? I don't remember her landing a single significant strike apart from the one that got her a point taken away. But yeah, Kayla Harrison closes the distance at every opportunity, dominates Juliana Pena with a grappling, and eventually when there's like 10 seconds left of the round, gets her in a Kimura. And I can only imagine a Kimura with somebody as jacked as Kayla Harrison is going to be unbearably agonizing. And she forces Juliana Pena to tap out. This was a dominant display from Kayla Harrison. Just absolutely manhandled Juliana Pena. She's OP at 135. Nobody can compete with Kayla Harrison at 135 as of right now. She's strong for the division. She's got the best grappling in the division. Her striking's improved tenfold. She's so good for this division, and Obviously, the next fight to make is going to be Kayla Harrison versus Amanda Nunes. Sign me up to that fight. They did a massive face-off in the Octagon. That's obviously the fight to make next. Sign me up for that fight. The greatest women MMA fighter of all time versus the best of this modern generation. Sign me up. If they can pull off Shevchenko versus Wei Li and Harrison versus Amanda Nunes, we might have to take a step back from hating on women MMA. Maybe appreciate some of the fights we've got coming up, because women MMA is kind of cooking right now. I know that's ironic after the last week main event with Blanchfield and Barber, but Kayla Harrison is the champion. The fight coming up with Nunes. I'm excited for this division, man. But yeah, great performance from Kayla Harrison. Dominated from start to finish. Like I said before, I don't think Juliana Pena did anything in this fight apart from that illegal upkick, which got her a point taken away. But dominant performance in Kayla Harrison. And new getting the fight with Amanda Nunes later this year. And then we had Merab versus Sean O'Malley. Merab is undoubtedly the greatest bantamweight of all time as he dominates Sean O'Malley and gets the submission in the third round over Sean O'Malley. Who's a decision machine? Not Merab. This was a pretty dominant performance from Merab. Now, the first round was competitive. Sean O'Malley was able to stay on the feet and even kind of partially for the second round, but Merab was doing better on the feet in this fight. If anybody was landing the more significant shots on the feet, it was Merab, until it eventually take down Sean O'Malley, and after a while, he was just dominating Sean O'Malley until the end of the third round. He pulls off, I forgot which submission it was, but gets the submission win over Sean O'Malley and forces him to tap. And that's the first finish Merab has had in like 3 or 4 years now. Who's a decision machine? Not Merab. He's got his first finish in a while. He said coming into this fight that he wants to get the finish, and he did. And undoubtedly, he's the greatest bantamweight of all time. I'd argue that he was the greatest bantamweight of all time even before this fight with Sean O'Malley. But now, he's definitely the greatest bantamweight of all time. 2 wins over Sean O'Malley, one of them being a finish. And everyone's talking about how Sean O'Malley's locked in, the new version of Sean O'Malley. What about Merab? Sean O'Malley Merab never had to go through this life transformation because he was already locked in from the get-go. 2 wins over Sean O'Malley, one of them being a finisher, one of Umar Nurmagomedov being the first guy to beat him, beat Cejudo, beat Yan, beat Jose Aldo. Merab Dvalishvili is undoubtedly the greatest of this division, and honestly one of the greatest of all time in general. Nobody's beating this man, unless Umar Nurmagomedov can go on a massive winning streak and then come together, or Corey Sandhagen. I know that's a tricky matchup for Merab, but after we saw Sandhagen versus Umar, it doesn't give me hope. Nobody's beating Merab. Even Pantoja moving up a weight class doesn't beat Merab. I think Merab's going to go on a massive run in this division, and I hope down the line, you know, maybe he challenges for the 145 belt. Maybe I'm looking too far in the future, but nobody's beating him in the 135 pound division. You know, for Sean O'Malley to come in his ultimate best form, no bright lights from the Sophia, you know, no excuses this time around, live transformation, and to get finished instead. That just shows you how good Merab is. I think O'Malley will be back. I don't think, again, it's necessarily something that O'Malley did wrong. I think it's just what Merab did right. So maybe you do like an O'Malley versus Song Yadong, or O'Malley versus Umar Nurmagomedov, or PT. And I'm not sure what you do with Sean O'Malley next. He's probably going to take some time off. But yeah, this is Merab's division. He's here to stay. And the boring allegations are gone. He's a fun champion. But that's my thoughts on UFC 316. I thought it was a pretty solid pay-per-view. The main card kind of slowed down in the middle, but the main and the co-main event lived up to the hype. There were a bunch of good moments in the prelims. So I thought this was a solid pay-per-view. Let me know your thoughts on UFC 316. Thank you for watching.